Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the internet's most viral and, frankly, absolutely most dangerous subcultures right now. Today, we're putting on our medical researcher hats for a clinical, evidence-based investigation into a massive phenomenon known as looksmaxxing. Look, if you've spent literally any time on social media lately, you've probably seen people pressing their tongues to the roofs of their mouths or, no joke, literally hitting their own faces with hammers, all just to get a sharper jawline. But what's actually happening to our bodies and our minds when we do this stuff? Well, we're going to break down the source material today to separate the medical facts from some incredibly harmful internet fiction. So here's the quick agenda for today. We'll start with the rise of the looksmaxxing trend, look at its toxic origins, and then debunk those pseudoscientific beauty hacks. After that, we'll get into the extreme physical dangers, the folks profiting off body dysmorphia, and finally wrap up with some actual sustainable habits. All right, Section 1, the rise of looksmaxxing. Let's look at how this whole thing actually began. Now, the basic desire to look good, that isn't new at all. Evolutionary psychology tells us we've always wanted to present ourselves well, right? It plays a huge role in how we perceive and judge one another. But today, under the crushing pressure of social media algorithms and constant comparison, man, that natural desire has mutated into an extreme obsession. We define looksmaxxing as the extreme pursuit of maximizing your physical appearance, usually to meet these incredibly rigid, highly specific internet beauty standards. Interestingly enough, this actually traces back to a concept coined way back in the 1970s called lookism, which basically just described discrimination based solely on physical appearance. And watching this trend evolve over time is, honestly, it's pretty alarming. It kicks off with that 1970s sociological concept of lookism, but then right around 2015, the actual term looksmaxxing is born in these super isolated internet forums. Fast forward to 2020, and the TikTok and Instagram boom just blasts this entire concept into the mainstream. We're talking millions of viral videos. And today, well, it's escalated into a full-blown medical crisis, with young people resorting to some seriously extreme measures just to alter their faces and bodies. Which brings us to Section 2, toxic origins and its roots in incel culture. To truly understand how we got to this crisis, we have to uncover the underlying psychology. The extreme origins of looksmaxxing can be traced directly back to 2015 on involuntary celibate or incel forums like lookism.net. And guys, this was absolutely not about healthy self-improvement. Not at all. It was driven by deeply frustrated men who were essentially blaming their genetics for their lack of dating success. They bought into this idea that by radically, aggressively altering their physical appearance to become an alpha male, they could finally win female validation. So at its core, it's deeply rooted in insecurity, misogyny, and just this obsessive need for a very specific type of aesthetic perfection. Moving on to Section 3, debunking hacks. Let's expose the pseudoscience. This is where we absolutely need to look at the clinical evidence and cut through the internet hype. Because you've got influencers spreading viral techniques that promise to completely reshape your bone structure for free. Take mewing, for example. It's this massively popular trend where you press your tongue flat against the roof of your mouth, supposedly to carve out a Superman-style jawline. But the British Orthodontic Society, they have explicitly stated that simply holding your tongue in a specific posture cannot and will not alter your facial bone alignment, period. Your bone structure is dictated by your genetics and overall facial growth, not by where your tongue sits. In fact, the actual creator of this technique, Mike Mew, faced some super severe professional consequences over this. Last November, his dental registration was officially suspended by the British General Dental Council specifically for making these unproven, unscientific claims. And it gets worse, the American Association of Orthodontists actually warns that forcing this tongue posture incorrectly can severely mess up your teeth. It can push your front teeth outward, giving you a misaligned rabbit smile instead of that chiseled jaw you were going for. And then there's the incredibly dangerous trend of bone smashing. Listen to this. Influencers are literally telling young men to hit their faces with hammers, claiming it utilizes something called Wolff's Law, which is a real medical principle stating that bones adapt to stress. But their application of it is completely wild. The medical reality is drastically different. Wolff's Law applies to the natural, gradual stress of things like weight training. Hitting your face with blunt force absolutely does not build a beautiful jawline. All it does is cause microfractures that heal unevenly, leading to asymmetrical bone growth, severe skin damage, and, honestly, permanent disfigurement. Let's turn to Section 4, the dangers of extreme modification, looking at the risks of hard maxing. Now we're shifting from those simple hacks into what they call hard maxing. These are extreme dietary and surgical interventions that pose severe, genuine health risks. Take a look at this number, 1,300. That is the shockingly low daily calorie count being pushed by a terrifying trend called starve maxing. Young men and women are drastically restricting what they eat, desperately trying to carve out hollow cheeks to look more aesthetic. To put that into perspective for you, 1,300 calories is what a toddler needs to survive. A healthy adult male requires somewhere between 2,200 and 3,000 calories a day. So this isn't just intermittent fasting, folks. This is literally self-induced malnutrition. And the consequences of this are entirely real, and they are utterly devastating. Just recently, an 18-year-old girl in Kerala tragically died from multiple organ failure. She had spent 6 straight months strictly following unguided extreme starvation diets that she found on YouTube, absolutely terrified of gaining even a single pound. This heartbreaking case proves that these aren't just silly little internet fads. This is a genuine, lethal public health crisis driven by totally unrealistic digital standards. Other extreme hard-maxing methods carry similarly terrifying medical risks. For instance, unregulated steroid use for rapid muscle growth, that leads straight to severe heart issues and hormonal collapse. And if you dig into the darker corners of these forums, you'll even see promotions for unregulated penis enlargement surgeries and injections, which are so often inspired by adult industry insecurities. The grim medical realities of these underground procedures are severe infections, permanent tissue distortion, and lifelong swelling. These guys are chasing a completely impossible ideal, and they are literally risking their lives to get it. Which leads us to Section 5, profiting off body dysmorphia. Welcome to the grifter economy. So you gotta ask yourself, who actually benefits from all this suffering? Well, whenever there's deep human insecurity, there's almost always an economy built right on top of it to exploit it. Take a look at this absurd price tag, roughly 3,700 rupees, which is about 37 US dollars. That is what popular Looksmaxxing influencers like Brett Maverick are charging their followers for a single pack of quote-unquote jaw-defining chewing gum. Think about that. They intentionally manufacture this deep insecurity about your face, and then, wouldn't you know it, they conveniently sell you the incredibly overpriced, medically useless cure. And how exactly do they convince you to buy this stuff? By using completely fake transformations. These influencers love posting these incredible before and after photos, claiming their expensive programs or their magic jaw gum completely changed their bone structure. But in reality, the before picture is usually just them when they were 14 years old, and the after is them at 22. It's not a magic hack. It's literally just natural puberty, going to the gym, and having decent genetics doing the heavy lifting. It is a classic textbook grifter tactic.
Let's wrap up with Section 6, sustainable habits over extreme trends.
We desperately need a way out of this toxic loop. But first, we have to recognize the sheer scale of the mental health impact here. 1 million. That is the staggering number of new body dysmorphia cases diagnosed yearly in India alone. And studies are showing that the rise of social media has spiked this disorder by a massive 2.4%. We have an entire generation of people staring into front-facing cameras, obsessing over tiny microflaws that literally no one else even notices. Clinically speaking, body dysmorphia is a mental health condition characterized by an obsessive, often paralyzing focus on a perceived flaw in your appearance. And here is the really harsh truth of the matter. Absolutely no amount of surgery and no amount of bone smashing will ever cure a mental health condition, period. Surgeons and unregulated clinics profit endlessly from this psychological loop because the patient will simply never feel perfect enough. True self-improvement is grounded in clinical health, not these extreme, bizarre aesthetics. It means engaging in evidence-based, actually sustainable habits. Instead of risking your life with unregulated procedures or starvation diets, go to the gym. Practice yoga to build physical and mental strength naturally. Eat a well-balanced diet that actually fuels your organs instead of starving them out. Practice basic good hygiene. And honestly, most importantly, you have to embrace your genetics. You simply cannot surgically or violently alter your fundamental DNA without taking on massive, life-altering risks. Which leaves us with this final, really important question. When you look in the mirror and think about self-improvement, are you genuinely building yourself up and creating a healthier, stronger version of you? Or are you just tearing your own mind and body down to fit some temporary manufactured internet trend? Think carefully about where you're getting your health advice, folks. Stay safe out there. Stay focused on what really matters, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.